Hey everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied voice, Justin. How is everyone on this fine Wednesday? I've been following the news a lot, so I had to drag myself away. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. It's a pretty good morning here. Today is our second day, David and I, of doing yoga together, so we're gonna see how if I'm less scandalized by it. Preparing to vegetate, Vandalar. Vegevandalar. Yep. Sure, Shadow Raven. You know, work does take precedence. Actually making money so you can sub to us does take precedence. Yeah, moon glooms. We live in interesting times. We live in very interesting times. That is sure. Like, I don't think I've ever followed the news so closely as I have the past few years. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to my yoga. It seems to be helping everything, actually. I have my back pain has been minimizing, which is actually pretty cool. So yeah. Attempting to work, not sure if you're succeeding. At least you're trying. Do not listen to that Yoda guy. There is definitely try, even if you don't do. Oh dear. You have two screens. See, I just can't do it. Like, two screens is like too much information. Oh, good. Snow. Sweet. Yeah, not gonna happen here. I think maybe like we're capable of getting snow just because I've seen it get down to 34 this winter. So technically if we got down to like 34, 33, maybe? Miniatures Den with the monster raid. Well, let me get my mug off the screen and go to something more interesting then. Hi, everybody. Oh, wow. 75 days in transit for your scale 75 paints. Oh, no, Medzik. I'm so sorry. I hope they're okay. Oh, 3 screens is way too much, Estalies. You are crazy if you can handle 3 screens worth of information. Oh, no. It just makes my brain blow up. Boom. It doesn't take much, right? Hello, Miniatures Den. Hello, everybody. How's it going, Luca? I saw you working on a cool-looking bust with awesome lighting. And it's Bob and Julie, green users. Julie Guthrie and Bob Rodolfi are 2 of our Reaper staff sculptors, who, Julie, of course, being famous for her dragons and animals, and Bob being an amazing sculptor of undead. As well as many other things, but, you know. Your cat sleeps on your laptop, so the 3rd screen is blocked, so you can manage, huh? Yeah, right. Alrighty, so, and this is a Julie Guthrie sculpt. Look, you see, speak and they appear. So what we're doing with Shadow Eyes here is we started and we're actually using some purples to shade the green armor. Let me get her in focus. Come on, Shadow Eyes. Time to go. It's time. There we are. So we went with a tabby point Siamese for her color scheme. So her paws are dark and her fur is lighter. Hello, Grumph. Hello, hello. 'Twas a busty bust. Yeah, well, I like busty busts too, and I cannot lie, so. I don't think I have any really busty ones over here, though. All my busts right now are not showing so much bust. Except for her, but she's actually got manageable bustiness. So, like, it's not overdone, which is one of the reasons I like her, right? So, all right, so we're going and we're developing our greens, our highlights, and I want to get some of this leather armor also blocked in today. So I think I'm going to use a reddish hue for the leather because it'll play off the green nicely. And we will continue on with highlighting our greens as well. And it is looking kind of like almost fake iridescent at this point because the green is going up toward yellow. And we've got that purple in the shadows. So it's very interesting. I believe we used Kraken Ink, didn't we? Yeah. We did use Kraken Ink for our purple and Ancient Oak. And then we highlighted it up with lighter greens. Cat's Eye, I think. But yeah. Yes, actually painting does trump unpainting. Make a painting, a New Year's painting resolution, but just make a little one. Don't be scared of making like a resolution to paint more and then feeling overwhelmed. Like, you should never feel overwhelmed about your hobby. I've got my sticky note here where I keep all my notes on what I used. It's very easy to just keep a little note. Some people keep a journal, but I find that if I do just a little sticky note, I can actually fold it up and put it like in the bag or stick it next to her card. I can keep it with the miniature a lot easier instead of having to go look up something in a book. So essentially, it makes it a little bit easier to keep my mixes close at hand. So that's why I do that instead of the journal thing. Looking something up in a journal is an extra bit of work. And if you are a lazy, efficient, that may like block you because you just don't feel like searching through your book to find out what colors you used. And that could stop you from working on the mini. So, but if you keep just a little note next to the mini or in a baggie with it or in its little box wherever you're keeping it, it makes it a lot easier for you to just take up where you left off. So that's why I keep little sticky notes instead of a journal to keep track of my colors. Same thing holds true with taking a picture with my cell phone. I used to do that. And if I'm working on a model, several days in a row, that works great. But when it's been 6 months since I worked on the model, looking back at my phone through all of my photos is really a pain. So that being the case, yeah, it's like whatever works for you, right? Hello, Rosebud Crow. Now I'm imagining a crow surrounded with rosebuds, which is a pretty awesome image, actually. But, oh, you're supposed to be doing the paint along. Yeah. Well, be easy on yourself. Just work on it. Don't stress. That's all I ask. Don't stress. I'm all chill in the new year. Like, chilling is kind of my New Year's resolution. Is not getting terribly frustrated or upset or going down, being down on myself too much about, this or that, the other thing that I think I should be doing. And just, moving, making progress, just a little bit of progress. It's okay. Like, I was beating myself up last night because I got distracted and didn't get to my writing until late. And I was really tired. And I knew that I had like really screwed up because I don't do as well if I try to tackle like painting or writing really late at night. But I was just like, nope, just do a couple sentences. You're good. So be easy on yourselves, people. That's all I gotta say. Even just spending like 15 minutes working on your model is going to get you closer to done. I am just grabbing my colors. Let's see. My ancient oak was around here somewhere. See, I've done it again. Speaking of being easy on yourself, I made this resolution to be better about putting my paints away. And for the most part, I'm doing it. But then it comes down to like, where did I put my ancient oak? Oh yeah, it's still out over here. There we go. I don't really think I need peacock green. There we are. And I think we were using cat's eye mixed in. Is either cat's eye or naga, because they both make a pretty green when they are mixed with ancient oak. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Kroniko. That's a great resolution. Yeah, actually finish instead of half finishing and putting them away. Yeah, because let's face it. Okay, so if you've got that mental block, guys, if you have that particular one, which is, a lot of us do, go ahead and when working on stuff, just work on stuff that you can get another one of. That's the way to kind of short circuit that kind of like mental block. Because if you can get another one, then you don't have to worry about waiting to finish this one. In fact, you have an incentive to finish the first one, because then that'll be a landmark for where you are as a painter right now. And when you're better, you can do the other one, and then you'll have two to directly compare instead of like painting good work over what you consider poorer work, right? And it's much more effective that way. So that is one way that it works for some people to circumvent that, is to make sure you've got two of something. I know that when I get blocked, it's like I only ever have one of this. Like if I get a limited edition model, then I'm just stuck because I'm like, I get one shot at painting it and it just freezes me for a while until I can get over myself, right? Yes. Well, that's a really good one too, Max Styles. So I'm going to mix up our highlight color here and get some work done on Kitty. I'm going to get a little closer to her, so catch me if I go off camera. Yeah, her armor looks really cool now with the Kraken Ink shadows and everything. What I probably need to do, given I went purple with the shadows, to be consistent, is to mix, do some mixes where I introduce that Kraken Ink and some of the shadows on her face and the rest of her, and probably go pretty dramatic with it. And then we'll have, that can tie, using a common shadow color can tie together the model. Or if we just want her armor to look kind of magical and carapace-y, then we can keep it that way. Yeah, I do find that if you do Twitch, I do find that is really good for me finishing things. Because, you know, you're just painting and chatting then. It's just like you're having a social hour, you know, you're at paint club or something. And then it's easier to finish things because you have a little distraction keeping you from freaking out that you're almost finished and oh my gosh. Good morning, Daffodware. It's good to see you. So I think I used Cat's Eye here. I didn't make a note of it, but I'm going to try it and see. So the cool thing about Ancient Oak, for those of you who are not that familiar with the Reaper paint lines, Ancient Oak's a very masculine green. As you can see, it's grayed out. I really wanted like an old, kind of really old oak tree, like dark green, like almost silver edged, you know, kind of, I wanted that kind of feel. And I think I nailed it with this color. So it's a really masculine, bluish, dark grayish green, and guys like seem to love it. But the awesome thing about it is that although it looks very muted, if you add a very yellowy green like Naga, or in this case Cat's Eye, into it, it actually comes back up into a fairly vibrant green. So it's very versatile. It's much more versatile than it looks. So I really like the soft greens that I get from mixing this with a brighter green like Cat's Eye, or specifically Naga. Naga you can get really saturated with. You'd be shocked. Naga green is, just to give you guys who are not familiar with Reaper line, that's Naga. So Naga is much more a medium green. It almost is a straight up, like, you know, crayon green, maybe a little bit more yellow. And then Cat's Eye has a bit more ochre in it. It's more that yellowy lampant green for Cat's Eyes. I try to pick appropriate names. What can I say? And I did use Naga green on my last Naga, so there you go. But yeah. Oh, the Reaper challenge, yeah. It is fun to try. Just, yeah, never be too hard on yourselves, guys. That's the only thing. It's kind of my resolution on one of my big resolutions for this year is to not be hard on myself and to just keep trying. Because I started a weight loss goal, too. I started a lot of goals this year, and most of them are just kind of tweaking goals I was already working on. So, all right, we're going to go with Cat's Eye and see if that's the color we used for Shadow Eyes' armor. So, yeah, this year is full of goals for Anne. But I have faith that the universe is on my side and that I will achieve at least a couple of them and give the others a definitely good try. All right, that looks favorable. It's making kind of a dark foresty green. See, that's pretty. Like, seriously, Ancient Oak makes some beautiful greens when you mix lighter greens into it. Let's actually go over here and just do mostly Cat's Eye. 4 drops, and then 1 drop of Ancient Oak, and then I'll compare those to my highlight color here and see if it looks like it's going in the right direction. Now, if I really want, I could take this armor even a little bit. Okay, so there's a way we could push this armor almost to look faux iridescent, and that would be to start highlighting it more in the tune of NMM, where I focus my highlights on the edges where the light drops off, and then I actually, if I went in and put a purple highlight on the underside of these areas, we would start looking like a bug carapace, essentially. But I don't know that I want that with this character. I think she's probably not she wouldn't want to go that garish. So we got a nice medium green here. I'm going to actually thin it down. I'm going to put a little bit onto this armor to see if it looks like the color that I had before. I was really light with my hand on the last highlight, so we'll see how it works. So about 2 drops of water, which takes us, if you've been keeping track, to about a 2.5 to 1 paint to water ratio. And that's not thin enough to actually layer with, but it'll give me a start. If I just kind of put a little edge highlight on, it'll kind of let me compare. So when you forget what colors you use, this is the title of this particular video, is when you forget what color you used, but you kind of think you might remember. Like, you remember that you used Ancient Oak because it's on your sticky pad, but you don't remember what you used. Oh, I did actually note it. It is on here, and I was totally wrong, but that's okay. We're going to go with this. We're going to go with this. I actually used Trollhide and Tropical. I just noticed that. I thought it was a different notation, but you know what? We're going to see. This will take it more green, though, and I kind of like that a little better. So let's pop this out of the frame so we get a closer color. So you can see that yellowish green on the top. And it is a different color than this highlight, but I actually like it a little better. So I think I'm going to go with this. It's a little more vibrant. I kind of am doing almost an NMM treatment here because I am making the highlight go down the center of the leg like it's a metallic cylinder. So there is at least, what I'm saying with that is that there is at least a little sheen here on this leather. It's not a dull leather. Yeah, I think I like that. Yeah, Major Ursa, I mean, it keeps you, when you're like me and you mix a lot, it does keep you honest a little bit. It keeps you from having to waste time figuring out what you mixed. If you start out, what I usually tell people is start out with a very basic set of colors if you're learning to mix, and that way you always know, like, this is the red I used to mix this orange because it's my only red. But yeah, otherwise, at the beginning of the stream, I was kind of talking, some people keep a painting journal where they note down their mixes, and some people just take a quick shot with their phone camera of the miniature with the paints. I like to also note down ratios, like here, highlight 1:1, that's a ratio. I like to note down ratios sometimes. It's just because it saves me time. If you don't mind kind of reconstructing stuff on the fly, or if you have a very limited selection of colors, so you're pretty confident, or if like, often I won't note down if I use a particular leather color, because I have standard leather color combinations that I have gotten to really like. So often I don't have to note those because I'm going to look at the model and go, oh yeah, I used my ruddy leather mix, or oh yeah, I used my russet brown mix. And so I don't have to worry about noting those. But if you're using something new and it's an unusual color set for you, then I think it's a very good thing to note it down. I tend to note it on a little note, on a little sticky note, just so I can keep that with the figure easily. Hey, Sadie. Oh yeah, there's a Brinewind color in this too, Sadie. It's Kraken Ink. I really love Kraken Ink. It's the shadow on this kitty. But yeah, I was trying to work them in. I just did a PDF on them in my Patreon. On the first 6. So yes, hello Sadie. And yes, I like your colors. The Kraken Ink has definitely made it into my standard rotation. It's a very fun shading color. It's a really, for those who are new from Lucas stream, it's a very dark purple, but it's got a good amount of vibrancy to it. It's not a dull purple. Like Reaper makes Nightshade purple, which is a black purple, but it's more black than purple. It just has a little hint of purple for those looking for an interesting shadow. But this one is a lot more saturated, the Kraken Ink. Let's see if I can grab it quickly. If I can't grab it quickly, then I'm gonna have to put it off. Do I have it over there? No, of course not. I have it somewhere. I put it in my shadow colors and then I promptly lost it. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Okay, Kraken Ink. So you can see how purple that is in the bottle, right? And there it is on the top. And if I open it, you can see that it is a beautiful dark purple. See that? That is a sexy color. That is 9507 rather, Kraken Ink. Sadie, they're going to be released soon, right? Like, you need to poke Ed and say, hey, Ed, put out those colors because Anne's using them and people want to buy them. I heard they were coming out in January or February or March, something like that. They were available previously at ReaperCon and stuff like that. Yeah, saturated darks are always really useful. The other one that's going to be coming out with our Kickstarter, our Bones 5 Kickstarter, is Black Indigo, and I love that one too. It's very similar, but it's got a lot more blue in it, and I adore it. So yeah, but you can see the purple in those shadows. And you can see how as I introduce this light, you know, it's emphasizing those purple shadows too. Because when you bring in something with a lot of yellow, then you're hitting that complementary color thing because you've got the purple there and the yellow in the highlight. That makes everything more vibrant. Hello, Coobs. Oh, waiting for boxes. That makes sense. Yeah, Reaper John said that the plan was to release them early this year. So, because otherwise I try not to promote, paint unless people can actually get it, because then they get irritated at me. Hey, it's not my call, Sandifer. It's not my call. It's Ed. Blame Ed. I'm throwing Ed under the bus. It's a time-honored tradition. Actually, it's a time-honored tradition to throw Ron under the bus, but... Alrighty. There we are. So just a little bit of highlight there, and see how that yellow really... Like, the armor looks really dull up here, but when you start popping that yellow in, it really comes to life, right? And it's not really even a yellow, it's just a yellowish green. So we're using cat's eye green because, well, cat. I think I'm going to really end up liking this armor. I was looking at it earlier. I'm like, oh, it looks so dull. I don't know. And now I'm like, oh, this highlight totally changes everything. And that tends to be true. Like, if you think your model looks good, try to put a couple more highlights on there and see if you even like it better. Like, that used to be our rule back in the day when we were all trying to get better at painting and wanted to enter competitions and stuff. It was all like, you know, if you like it, you probably could still improve it with another highlight or two. And it depends also on what kind of material you're painting, of course, that rule, because, you know, if you're not painting something that could be a little glossy, you don't want to take your highlights up too much. That case, you probably want to darken your shadows, because you always want contrast with these little guys. The bigger model you're painting, the less you have to worry about really deep shadows, because the model's going to be a large enough scale to cast its own shadows. Just a little bit of a highlight there on the inside of the leg. Even though it's in shadow, definitely in shadow, you still want a little bit. You want to pick out that area just a little bit to show that you didn't ignore it. And there would be reflected light coming back up at it, so you'd see a lesser shadow. You wouldn't see anything as bright as I'm going to be putting on the front of this leg, but you could still see if those plates pop out, so. Yeah, we went for Tabby Point Siamese. With blue eyes, so she's gonna have blue eyes. I just haven't gotten there yet. But she is cute. And we are gonna stripe her tail. Like I decided, guys. I went and I looked at it again, especially with popping up like some of the contrast and the yellow and purple thing up here. I think that I can stripe the tail and we won't get too distracted. I also realized that I could, even though it's not in the color scheme, I could add some stripes up on the head, so. Yeah, the clear Thalos. Yes. Yes, everybody wants the clear Thalos. I want to be able to get clear Thalo green all of the time because it's so useful, and I would love to be able to use it in tutorials, and if it's not released, I can't use it in tutorials. I was trying to give somebody a sub for it the other day, and there's just nothing. There's nothing that even holds a candle. So you just can't do, like, it's just, it's its own thing. It's why it's a pigment, why it's a pure pigment. So yes, work in the clear Thalos, please. Please. S'il vous plaît. Was there anything else? No, not really. I like Sharkbite too. Sharkbite's a good color from those Brinewind colors. What are my favorites? I think I like Treasure Map a lot too. Because it kind of is a good replacement for a canceled color. There's quite a few. I think I kept another one in here too. Storm Chaser Blue is it's a nice muted, real true navy blue. Not too vibrant. Hey, Beanmish, thank you for the resub and Time Stitcher. Wow, 8 and 14 months respectively. Lovely. Thank you. Reaper thanks you. I can say that when I'm on this show. Yeah, some of the Rhinewind colors are a good set. They are a good set. Like, I'm glad I tried that Kraken Ink because it's one of my favorites. I'm always looking for good cold shadows that have more saturation in them. You can always knock it down, but making it brighter, making a shadow more vibrant is more difficult. You have to add in a clear bright or whatever. It's kind of nice to have some good saturated darks. Get her knee. See, that armor is really coming up now. Look how dull it looks up here, but the minute you add that yellowy green, it's like zing. And I think I will take it. How light I take it is the question at this point. If I go too high, it's going to look shiny. That's the thing. Always remember when you're highlighting a surface, especially when you're going from very dark to very light, you're going to end up looking shiny 10 to 1. So if you don't want a shiny appearance, you got to remember that when you're doing, yeah, everything is really, really popping off. I like it. It's very dramatic, and I like it that way. So, all right. I think I do what's called a soft finish often. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this highlight to the rest of the armor plates, and then we're going to fill in everything else, because not having these leather colors in and the NMM is really kind of impinging on us a little bit here now. It's definitely, like, we can't really tell how this armor is going to look until we have everything filled in. So Yeah, I really like how it looks too. It's really unusual. I think she definitely has like some kind of funky armor, like magical armor. Maybe it's Fae armor. Maybe she's a Fae cat. Maybe she got it from like a fairy queen or something. This is the kind of like thing you'd get, right? It's the kind of effect you'd have on that. Or since it is purple, maybe it's like some sort of weird shadow armor. I don't know. You could make it anything. That's what I love about fantasy models. You can make up a story about it. Speaking of stories, thank you for everybody who tuned into my D&D stream yesterday on my own channel. We didn't get very much done, but it was fun anyway. That's D&D, right? You know, you've had those nights where you all get together and you're just like, you know, yay, it's D&D night. And then like you all like make dinner, or you like sit and eat dinner for forever, and you chat about everything else, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we're almost out of time to game. And then you like quickly game a little, and then you're done. It's kind of, those days do happen. It'd be like that sometimes. After she caught and ate the fairy queen. Or the fairy queen's like big bug mount. Like if you go for the Warhammer for the Age of Sigmar, Avariel or whatever her name is on that giant stag beetle. Yeah, this is after she ate the fairy queen and killed the stag beetle and made it into armor. Oh, sure. Yes, Pats for the tantruming. Sorry you're dealing with that. Thanks, Sadie, for stopping in. It's nice to see you. There is I have a secret clears post on my Patreon. Valandar. But it's really not something that Reaper could put up. Because a lot of those colors aren't available. Like, we're trying to, to remedy that by, maybe if Sadie can get those Thalos back in production, and I made some for the Kickstarter. So if those sell well, the yellow oxide and the brown oxide and the red oxide, if those all stay in print, there will be no more secret clears. There will just be clears that are real. But Reaper really can't promote something that they don't sell. So that's why I put a note on it on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/paintingbig. I was able to do that because, although I'm a Reaper employee, I'm not, my Patreon is not affiliated with them. So, but yeah, hopefully we can remedy it all and get get some substitutions for clears that have been canceled. And then we can promote our clears. Do a box set. Maybe a couple box sets. All right, so I want to get the top of this shoulder pad for sure. I got a little bit of a mold line there still, sadly. Being Bones, it's not hard to take that mold line down, so maybe I will, since this is Bones Black, which is the 44,000 numbers, or Bones Black, with the dark card. It is pretty easy, if you notice that you've missed a bit of a mold line, to just kind of take your knife and take that mold line down. Yes, you have to paint over it, but it's very easy to paint straight over on Bones. You don't need to even use primer. So I can come in here and correct this a little bit, since I didn't do the good job I thought I did in the beginning. Just be gentle with your knife. I tend to keep a somewhat, it's not a really, really sharp X-Acto for my mold line removing, because I don't want to gouge the surface. So I'm going to put my dark green down first. And then I'll put my light green over the top. So it's not hard to correct. Make it a little bit nicer. Oh, Reaper gifting a gift sub to Sadie. That's funny. La 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 la, as we paint along. Yay. Put a little paint over the top of that. A little paint over the top of that. Get our highlights on the upper surfaces. Then we can hit a little bit of the edges here. Want to make sure we pick out some highlights. That's coming on right along. That armor looks good. I may do some edge highlighting here, just to make it really pop it. House paint, because somebody who worked at Reaper used to work at the Armory, and Armory once had an interview where they claimed they started their paints with house paint. I will not comment. I cannot give away Reaper trade secrets. Who knows? There could be all sorts of mysterious... there's going to be all sorts of mysterious ingredients. Like the rumor that we used actual blood for the blood colors. But I know where that rumor comes from. You guys are so funny. Funny, funny, funny. All right. All right. Let's see here. I need a dark brown. I'm going to start really dark with these leathers, and then I'm going to bring them up with a reddish color. So I'm going to use ruddy leather, probably, and I may start them with walnut, because that's a pretty good shadow. So I may start with my shadow and work up on this leather. I want it to stay pretty dark, since I'm bringing the greens up a bit, and I'm alternating light and dark. So essentially what I'm doing here is trying to light, dark, you know, and then light, and then dark, and then lighter. But in here, I'm going to do contrast with warm and cool instead. So there is still light, dark, light in here. But also using a reddish leather next to this green will help a lot with that. The Imprisoned Unicorns in Ron's 4th office. Only the 4th one? Ron's got like 23 offices. No, if you like the green armor, you should pick a new model for it. It'd be really good on an elf lord. Or lady. What Reaper figure was the most fun for me to paint? Probably one of the Templars from Warlord Valandar. It was either the Templars or... No, probably one of the Templars. Like Duke Gerard or Christiana come to mind, or the Undead Hunter. Like, back when Reaper was doing in Warlord, I wrote the army book for the Templars, and so I got to create a bunch of characters, and Talon, Izzy, very nicely drew a lot of them for me, so they ended up with really kick-butt miniatures. And so I'd say that I had a lot of fun with those. Let's see here. I feel like that's actually a flaw on that leg that I need to take off. I've been painting it like it's a piece of armor, but it's not on the other side. So I think that's actually a flaw in the plastic. I'm going to take that off. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could do it with Dark Elves, for sure. If you went undead with it, what I've liked to do in the past Valandar is to go I like kind of sickly olive greens for undead. So yeah, this would work with it, but I would take it up from the purple with more of an olive color. Yeah, I've got a big chunk here that I'm just going to take off because it doesn't seem to fit with the other side of the leg. So I'm just going to knife it and try to make sure the edges are clean and blend in. I am fearless, as you can see, with chopping off parts of my paint job with a knife because I know I can paint right over them. And it's still pretty early. I mean, it only put on a couple of highlights. So it's pretty easy. Pretty easy. Yes, this is the one time that I'm not going to talk about like Reaper paint chemistry. Although I will tell you that you guys need to remember it's not the brand or anything, you know, or type even of paint that dictates the viscosity. It's the resin you use. So, and also the additives. I think I missed a little bit of a lump on this side still. But yeah, this could be very cool green armor and a whole bunch of different things. Wood elves come to mind. But you could adapt it for necromancers or anything like that. Yeah, I did miss just a little bit of this lump. Not sure what kind of artifact that was, but I think we've got it now. Thanks, Esther Jean. We're getting there. I've been fighting with the armor here, and there was kind of a chunk of plastic down here that didn't seem to fit, so I took it off with my knife and had to do some surgery. So there we are. But now I need some Kraken ink because there should be a shadow back there. So I need to grab it and mix up some of it. And then I need to block in all of this armor. And some of it's going to be straight up really dark leather. And some of it's going to be gold. And I need to figure out... I might actually make her belt black leather with this bag also being black leather. And then do red leather because this bag is up against like some other stuff like this armor and this leather. And I don't want it all to run together. And she doesn't have any black on her and she is a rogue. So I'm thinking maybe this big bag gets to go black. And then the studded parts and the scale part here get to go red. And then we can go maybe black with some gold bling on the bracelet. And that should make everything go pretty well together, actually. So we're getting there. We're getting there. So let me get my Kraken ink mixed up. I still need to do some surgery here, too, to chop because their swords are kind of connected at the bottom, just to support them. I need to chop that. And chop the other side too to free up those swords and make sure that they're just lightly resting on the ground. Definitely helps with molding, but once you get to painting a figure, if you want it to be more dynamic, you can cut those connections. Alrighty, Kraken ink accomplished. Let's add some water to it. I think today's going to be a good day. What do you guys think? It's halfway through the week. It's halfway through the week, and I have an afternoon that I like have a lot of open room in, which I like because then I have a lot of time to work on Patreon stuff. And I was like, much as I like my streaming days where I stream in the afternoon, also it's very nice to have a couple of days where I have nothing in the afternoon that's planned, so that I can work on all the other things that I do. So these are some of my favorite days of the week. It's Wednesdays and Fridays. All right, now I'm going to get some dark shadow, get some Kraken ink and put it over here just to shade that part. But yeah, this is another example of what I'm always telling you guys about. You can, really shade and highlight any color with any other color. You just need to do transitions and use thin layers. Or use thin layers. So I'm like shading green with purple and I have no problem. If I would have started with Kraken ink and just like highlighted it with green, it would turn out the same way. Still have some of these green parts. I have to figure out what I'm doing here. I think I meant for the scabbard to be green in between all these straps, but there's not a lot of room there. So I may have to do those straps in black and keep some of the green. I think I'm going to kind of put a light brush of this green over the top of it. And then when I put the straps in, either that or I need to make the straps green and the base of the scabbard black. Like, it's got to go one or the other way. And doing the straps in green probably makes a little more sense as they're going to stand out. We'll have to see how it looks. But right now, let's just get our little green highlights on the rest of this armor so that we can swap over and block in some of this leather so that our mini ends up looking more done. Because everybody loves a mini that looks a little more done. Get the gorget in here. Probably put some silver studs on the armor. This would be really good for a druid too. This kind of green-purple shift. I do love, though, I just love shading greens with purples. David does not like green. I have learned this. He does not like rock troll because rock troll is green. I'm like, I like rock troll. But I think I tend to like greens. Like, I mean, even though after painting my Wood Elf army, I back in the day, I swore off green for a very long time. But I will admit, I do love greens. I especially love the olive greens that I worked with on Rock Troll. Green is one of my colors. And David just avoids it. He really doesn't like green. The closest he gets is teal. It's so funny. I guess I don't know if I have a color that I really don't like other than mint green. But even mint green has its uses. There are color schemes I don't like, but it has nothing to do with a particular color being used in them. It just has to do with the fact that I don't like the combination that somebody used. Though it's funny, David, we were looking at some models on Putty and Paint the other day, and he's like, you can tell who we are because, like, the first thing I look at on any piece is the color. Like, it's the first thing that hits me, and it's not even conscious. It's just what I do. Like, because I do color. It's what I do. And so he shows me this picture, and he's like, the texture on the cloth. And I'm like, but the color's in the skin. It's so funny. And he looks at color secondarily, and he also, when he paints, sees, he looks more at contrast, pure contrast, and not color. And I look at color, and then I introduce contrast. And there is no, this is just an illustration, guys, that there is no right or wrong way to do it. We both paint models that end up looking fantastic, and we just have very different approaches. So never, ever take somebody's instruction. If it's somebody that you look up to, if their style is different than yours, don't think that you're doing it wrong, ever. Yeah, green is versatile. That's for sure, Shadow Raven. I do like olive greens, stickly greens for necromancers. I think because you get so bored with black, and so I started looking for alternatives. So I do like black purples and sickly greens with necromancer type models. Probably got that kind of from the Skaven, like from Games Workshop, because of the, black and then, the plague monks and all that stuff. It made me think about the fact that you could make olive green a really evil color if you had the right context and the right color. Okay, so there we go. We're getting a little better here. Let's get the edges of these plates in the back. And really bring out that green. Yeah, it's a pretty good morning. It's a pretty good morning. It's an overcast day here. I haven't looked at what the weather is supposed to be like. I would like more rain. We haven't really had a lot of, we've had overnight rains, but only one, real kind of rainy day. And I like rainy days. Especially with no snow here. Rainy days make it feel more like winter, so. All right, so I'm focusing my green at the top of the figure here. I'll put a little bit down here on the bottom, but not too much. But most of it's going to be up top here. Yeah, we've got a little bit of brush stroke showing because I'm using slightly thicker paint today. Just because I got lazy, didn't want to thin it all the way. So that means I have to bring in some of my next darkest color to kind of try to blend in those little areas. Ooh, we actually ate our leftover venison chili last night, Nomad Zeke, and discovered to our delight that we have enough for yet another day of leftovers. I'm glad David likes leftovers. At least he likes leftovers if they're really tasty, and my venison chili apparently fits that. So we even made enough corn muffins, jalapeno corn muffins, to last for all the leftovers, so win. The jalapeno corn muffins are probably my favorite part. The chili ended up really spicy this time. because I went off ethnicity and I grabbed some of my chili garlic paste, which is more of an Asian ingredient, and I put it in the chili. It popped up the heat, I'll tell you that. But it's very tasty. I had originally thought that I didn't have enough like hot peppers, but it turned out well. All right, get this kind of figured out. Oh yeah, I go for a lot of peppers that are lower heat because I like the texture in a mezzik, to roast them and chop them up and add them. I like the color too that they can add. I use red bell pepper, and then I use usually poblano, jalapeno, and Anaheim. This time I couldn't find a good poblano for color, so I just went with the Anaheim and the jalapeno. I do love Anaheim peppers. They're one of my favorite hotter peppers. They're not like, but I don't like the super hot peppers. I've never been somebody who really relished that super hot stuff. I like peppers when they give you flavor. I don't want them to blow out my mouth. You people who eat those scary ghost peppers are just like, you know, really like super hardcore. I cannot approach it. Yeah, garlic chili paste is a condiment of the gods. This is for sure. What triads to use on minis? Give us a clue, Varl, by saying what the mini is. I mean, the thing you could do is just like set up the random color encounter table, or you can just go get mine off of my Patreon, which is up for free. You don't have to be a patron to get it, and just use the first table, which gives you a D6 roll for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And then once you're done with that, it'll give you a color. So then you can go look at the triads in that color and decide which one you want. Like, honestly, you could reduce this to dice rolls. You could go Rollmaster on this. You could go D&D first edition and have lots of tables that will enable you to choose a color. Human priestess, huh? Try, what god? Because that's where you start. You start with the deity on priests. Always start with the deity. Do you know what god she follows? All right, let's get some walnut. I do love my random encounter color table. It is kind of fun. But yeah, if you know what god the priest is, then you should do that. Yeah, I mean, go look at mine, Time Stitcher. I've got a basic color you start with, and then it tells you like which way to push the color, or whether you want to mute it or make it bright. And then it'll tell you like, do I want to do like a complementary color scheme, or a triadic color scheme, or a quadrad, or a split complementary. There's all that. You know, do I want to push this color more muted? Do I want to put this color more bright? You know. So like a moon goddess. I forget what Miliki does. Is she also a moon goddess? Then, you know what? You almost could go with like a pale blue-gray triad. You could go with the snow shadow triad, or you could go with the new moonstone blue, carbon gray, and foggy gray. You translated it into code. Yeah, Dragon Eye. Chili garlic paste. Yeah, if you go to the Asian section of your supermarket, they should have it. It's the same people who... My brand is the same people who put out sriracha, the hot sauce. So it's that same logo, and it's a smallish jar, round jar. And it's clear, so you can see the red chili paste in there. And it's very garlicky, and it's very hot. Or I guess for me, it's very hot. For people who like ghost peppers, it's probably moderate. Yeah, totally check it out, because if you're not a patron, you can still get it. I do have some free content, fun free content like that up on my Patreon. Alrighty, let's get this walnut stirred up. I'm going to use this to basically cover all of the bags and leather, and then we'll go up. And I may underpaint if I decide it's too dark, but she is a rogue, and so I decided I do want some dark on here. Oh, too much water. See how it's beating up? Shouldn't have put that water in. Should know better, especially because I've been handling the model. Probably has finger grease on it. I could actually wash it at this point. As long as your paint is dry, guys, you can actually wash bones. Don't scrub or anything, but you could, like, use... Oh, you are a patron. Well, then cool, Time Stitcher. Do not hesitate. Is tangy, yeah. Painting Big Patreon. Yep. Patreon.com/paintingbig. Is indeed. The random color encounter table. I did it. I'm trying to remember when I did it. I did it during the early days of COVID. So maybe March or April of this past year of 2020. Because I thought people needed like kind of a funny thing to pep them up. And so I did the random and color encounter table. And it is done in all seriousness, but it's also can be funny. It can give you some funny results. So, and it may make you paint with colors you would never ever imagine. In utilizing it, do remember that orange can also mean brown. Because browns are just muted oranges. So if it calls for orange and then it tells you to mute a color, the easiest way to mute and have it work together is to go brown. I'm going to leave the sword hilt light because probably going to go gold with that. And I want to remind myself to do it. Yeah, this is definitely repelling my thinner paint. May need to go straight up with this walnut. You tried it, but the bugbear you decided to work on came out just bad. Well, you know, Shadow Raven, if you do try the random and color encounter table, it is fully fair for you to post up in like works in progress and say you're using it and ask people for help, because that way we can help and try to keep you from, you know, choosing or going in a direction that might look bad. So do keep in mind that my Discord is a place of love and help, and we will totally help you if you get into a bad place with the random color encounter in table. I mean, I'm sure you can get that place with random encounters regularly, right? You can always roll the monster that's going to kill the party. So it's good to have a group of people to bounce your color scheme off of. The other thing to remember is to always go like with variations in your dark and lights, because that can help colors work together that might otherwise not go together very well. So we're working in some really dark colors. Now we're looking roguish. Notice how adding in all of these darks start to make her look more like a rogue. Because we're always with rogues, we're always looking for darker colors, right? To hide in the shadows and do all that stuff. So you can do that too, Nomad Zeke. I love being in a person from who started role playing in the 80s. I just love role playing. I just love systems with lots of dice rolling. There's like some core like little kid in me that loves to roll dice, and so I had to do it. I had to do the random color encounter table. There's some things that I would change on it now and maybe update to make it more trouble free. Although, yeah, and there's like some color combos I think I would add and take out. It doesn't cover all of the possible color combinations. Obviously, because there's tons of them. I think it's exclamation point tools or exclamation point. I don't know, guys. Do you remember with my brushes? Today we're working with Big Brush. To give you the info really quickly, Suru, I use two brands, Raphael and Da Vinci, for most of the work I do. This big one is my Raphael. It is very, very thin toward the tip, but it is otherwise a very large brush. It is a size 1. When I want to do really fine work, I reach for one of my other Da Vinci brushes. Really fine detail. I will grab my Da Vinci size 1, which is much smaller than my... You can see the size progression there. This brush is starting to get worn, you can see, because it tilted there. You're losing its snap. But this is the precise progression. So we've got, the big one is a Raphael 8408, size 1. The other one is Da Vinci Maestro, size 1, series 10. Series 10, down there. And then there's a series 10 again with the Da Vinci Maestro, but a size triple aught. There we go. And then my palette is there too. The awesome Well palette of Doom. But here with base coating and with you working on bigger areas like the armor, I'm using my big brush. Big brush. Because I want to load a bunch of paint onto this if I'm covering over the bones material. I want thick paint. Thick paint, you should pretty much reach for a bigger brush because it's going to stay wet in that brush longer. So that's why we're using big brush right now to do base coating on these dark stuff. And make her look more like a rogue. So I have to question how high I'm going to take my highlights. I'm probably going to leave a lot of this walnut in play. And just put slight highlights on my leather to make it reddish. I may not bring it up as much as I originally decided. Because I do like how having this dark color on here makes her look more rogue-like. Like it's getting her to look more shadowy. And that's what we want. I do it a lot, but Suru, you're not the only like person who needs it, right? Whenever you're asking a question and you think your question is stupid, and I've answered it 60 million times before, always remember there is somebody else new on this stream who has never been here before who could use the information. I never ever mind repeating myself. I know that we get a lot of new people on this show, so... And it's never a waste of time to talk about brushes. Oh no, I blorfed. See, what do? Rinse out our brush, get a bunch of water, flood the area. Rinse out your brush again, take most of the water off of it, slurp up that excess water, dry off the brush again a little bit or squeeze the water out of it and pull it off. Ta-da! The blorf has been averted. So that's, keep the presence of mind to do that. If you blorf, do not freeze, do not freak, do not like go, oh noes. Or if you do it in the back of your head while you're getting a brush full of water and throwing it at it. Acrylic takes a few moments to set and dry, and while you are, while it is in a semi-fluid or fluid state, it is very easy to take it off of your underlying paint job. And we're going to get the back of the loincloth here. Or leather cloth. There is such a thing as a stupid question, but it's still worth asking, because if you're the type of person who needs to ask that question, then you need the information more than anybody. I don't mind people asking what seems like stupid questions. It's usually just that you're thinking about it in a different way. And so it's not obvious the way that you're thinking. And that doesn't mean that you're stupid. It just means you're not experienced enough to know why. We make fun of people too much in this world for not knowing things. I'm sorry you suffered psychic damage, Zeke, but I'm pretty sure that you could ask as uneducated a question about some other, like, area that you don't know as well. We could all ask stupid questions about things we don't know anything about. Quote unquote stupid questions. I really don't believe there is one. Being brave enough to ask a question that you think might be stupid is not to be ridiculed. We all love to be right. We all are afraid of being wrong. But sometimes it's to your advantage to be wrong if you learn something new. All right, I need to get the tail. The back of the tail here needs to be dark underneath this loincloth. It's kind of some fill-in structure down there, so I'm going to keep it mostly dark. That's the back of her tail. Well, right, Time Stitcher. Relevant XKCD. Yeah. Sorry, Ninja. We block links here. But I'm sure there is a relevant XKCD for everything. So I'm sure. I do not doubt that you are correct. Yeah, exactly, Hamadar, right? What's an example of a stupid question? Inevitably, the telling thing is that inevitably the questions that people say are stupid are questions that seem like they have obvious answers that any common sense person could, understand. But obviously enough as well, if you have no knowledge or reference frame for that particular subject, you will need to ask the question. So, I mean, there are things like, is coming inside out of a thunderstorm a good idea, right? That's common sense. But if you're a little kid, you might think it's fun to play in thunderstorms. Or if you're somebody who never grew up with a thunderstorm, you might think it's really cool and not realize that there could be danger. How are you going to eat that? That is anything but a stupid question, because that's a valid question. Because if the answer is no, then you get more food. The ghost of Kiri is hovering over my head, HM Road Dog, saying, that is never a stupid question. Any dog would tell you that is a valid question. No, I totally get it, No Man's Zeke. Wireless cables. I get it. It's like a contradiction in terms, right? But chances are that person is thinking some weird way, right? Who knows? They just have no knowledge of it. Yeah, that's it, Ninja. Exactly. See, that's where I feel. It's like, no, you can't really have wireless cables because the point of wirelessness is not to have cables at all. So, cool. But tech can be really intimidating for people, so they just don't think, right? Their brain doesn't engage. And if they're used to things having cables, then I could see how they would they wouldn't get there. They wouldn't even get there in the thought process to realize that it was an oxymoron. So, yeah, it's a thing. It depends on if you're asking your wife. Yeah, I am with that. The only stupid question is the one that you don't ask. I mean, there are certainly pretty dumb questions like that have been asked me, like in my role in our dog project thing, our dog club, like questions that I would consider stupid. But that's just because I know a lot about this stuff and new people don't. So, yes, it might make my brain hurt, but I try not to ever ridicule anybody. I just try to educate. It's very important to watch what you say and think. Like what you let your brain think about people and your attitude toward them. Even if the funny thing to say is that, that question was so dumb it made my brain hurt. It's not a really useful thought. Other than being funny to other people who also would think that question would make their brain hurt. I don't know. But I'm an instructor at heart, and I guess that, being the kind of person who the instant I learn something, I try to figure out how to break it down to more easily teach it to people. I guess that is the root of my, like, even if it's a funny or a stupid question, I'm still going to take it seriously and answer it. Even if it's a joke, I'm still going to answer it. Because I'm trying to bridge the mind gap. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can be difficult. I do get it, Dragon Eye, because, yeah, when you work in something like IT, it can be really, really difficult to keep your composure and really not get frustrated with people who have that kind of question. Absolutely. It can be hard to remember. Yeah, there's usually a deeper question, right? Yeah. I actually don't, Doug. I find that if I'm going to be shipping the model, then I put a brush-on sealer on it, like Reaper's brush-on sealer or, Vallejo brush-on or any of the normal paint companies' brush-ons. I like Reaper's personally because I formulated it and I know how to axe, but, any brush-on works. I used to use Tester's Dull Coat a lot, but I find that with a paint line that adheres really well, which Master Series does, I need that less. And so unless I'm like shipping a model, or if it's going to be a gaming model where I'm going to be handling it a lot on the table, then I could see putting a layer of brush-on sealer over it. I don't do spray sealers anymore, though, in general. Part of the reason that I tend to reach for brush-ons over spray, by the way, is because brush-on sealers tend to be a little more flexible. So especially when you're working with a bones model like this, which is plastic, and although this is the bones black, so it's a very firm plastic, there is still some flex. What I find is that spray-on sealers are more likely to crack if a part bends, and brush-on sealers are more likely to bend. It's the reason is the resins and the way they apply. They are applied. So I find the brush-on sealer to give me better mileage. But in general, Doug, if it's for like, if I'm doing a display model, I usually don't even seal it. If I'm working with Master Series paint, Master Series is really durable. And I find that sealers give diminishing returns. I mean, even when you seal the heck out of something, chances are if there's a sharp edge on your model that you tend to handle a lot, it's going to rub off. It doesn't matter how many times you seal it. So at that point, I just resign myself to doing a little bit of a touch-up. And if I do that touch-up, I might put some brush-on sealer over that part just to make it a little more resistant. But I understand that nothing is going to make the model bulletproof. So at that point, considering that sealers can change, like have impact on, like, say, your highlights and stuff, especially sprays, I just don't go there. I just paint it. I used to seal a lot when I was using different paint lines that didn't have as much durability. New... Yeah, you'll get, I mean, inevitably you're going to get a couple little rub-off points. Like, I bet the tips of her ears will rub off if I was to play with her, Doug. It's just something that's going to happen. I mean, just try to make sure you've got a good, solid coat of paint on there. And understand that it'll probably happen. But, yeah, do a sealer. If you're going to be gaming a lot with them, do a nice coat of sealer. I still prefer brush-on for the reasons I outlined, because it is more flexible if you're working with plastic figures. If you're working with metal, then spray sealer may be your baby. And a lot of people I know who game a lot with their figures will do a coat of a gloss sealer followed by a coat of a matte sealer, so that the matte sealer will kill the gloss, but the gloss is very durable, so the gloss is put down first and then the matte is put over the top. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why you always try to choose a more matte sealer, Doug. Even if you put down a gloss first, because it's really, really, really durable, do a matte sealer over the top. I don't know if Testers still does dull coat, but that used to be the sealer of choice, to put a light coat of dull coat to kill the shine after you did the gloss. Yeah, it also depends, like, on how abusive your players are with the figures. And it depends on if you have plastic figures or if you're doing, like, we did our Gloomhaven minis, David and I, and we played with them quite a bit, but I didn't get rub off. That it was plastic, and I used Master Series paint on it, and I didn't really see any rub off, even though I was regularly picking it up like this, you know, to like this. So I guess it depends. I definitely have been in D&D groups where people really abuse the models. Like, rolled dice into them and knocked them down on the gaming board and all that kind of thing. Oh, thanks for the sub, Doug. Hey, no problem. Yeah, I have a very knowledge-based stream, so I will always answer your questions and, like, try to explain to you why, instead of just saying, do this. I like the whys. I like the whys behind things. That informs people more. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, Dragon Eye. Like, if you have somebody in the family who is really like a kid or a husband or a wife who abuses miniatures, totally gloss and dull coat. Absolutely. Protect your minis. All right. So, you know what I'm going to do also is I'm going to put this walnut brown and darken down her claws on her feet, because I'm going to want those dark anyway before I put the highlights on them. So I'm going to block those in. I'll probably line around her feet at this point also. I'm feeling like I need to get more of this plastic color gone. So I want that at this point, so I'll pause and do it. There definitely comes a time where I get sick of having white primer or the base color of the plastic or metal or whatever resin showing, like whatever my base is. There comes a point where I want to see the figure laid out. This is how I paint Noai, or Noel. So the reason I started doing this, I'll tell you the story, but it is that I normally have shorter time periods to paint in. Like I tend to paint in 1 hour or 1.5 hour blocks. And some days I might only get one of those 1 hour blocks. And so what I learned is that if I used to base coat everything and then work on everything. But what I learned is that really slowed me down because I felt like there was so much left to do. And it took me so long to finish a mini because I paint to a fairly high standard. And so it takes me a while. And so what I learned was that if I started to do it this way instead, if I would do an area and give it kind of up to a soft finish and then work on the next area and kind of go up to a soft finish on that. And, I would get the reward feeling for the model looking good, even though it was only half painted, because the areas that I was focusing on at least looked good. So this is entirely like kind of my strategy to reward myself. To essentially say, hey, even if the rest of the model has no paint on it, the face looks great. I feel great. And that would motivate me to work on it more. Whereas when I was just doing the base coat over everything, I'd get disheartened because the start of a mini, it looks like butt, right? It goes through that ugly phase, right? Where nothing looks great. But if you paint in segments like this, then at least one thing will look good or look close to finished. And it motivates me to keep going. So that's what I tend to do. As long as I can look at the model and do it that way. Yeah, it works for me a lot. Like if the reward of seeing a finished part of the model is enough to motivate you to keep going, then yes, this will work for you. Like even with busts, I do it. Like right now I've got a bust that I'm working on, and this is her. And I've like got the face almost to the point of finish at this point. Let me put her over the white and see if you can see her. There we go. It's a little bit better. And so I've got her face like coming around to where it's close to done. I need more highlights, more shadows, more blending, but and even though the hair is just base coated and the rest of the model is all primed, I still feel good because I'm like, oh, but I like the face. I like the face. I like where it's going. And so that motivates me. I keep that over on my little sideboard here. And every time I look at it, I get excited about working more on that model. So that's a trick. If you like that feeling of finishing, but it takes you a long time to paint, then maybe that'll work for you. Thanks, Kerniko. Yeah, it's it's the Templar girl. It's from Galapagos. 1 second, let me grab it. It is. I love to show the underside of the box because that's a paint job I like better. Got to dig everything out of the box so it doesn't fall out. But yeah, it's this one. Boom. This one with that, and I'm gonna do Sky Earth NMM on the Dragon Pauldron and everything like that. So she's really cool. Really, really cool. I've wanted to start her for a while, so I finally did over the new year. Just really enjoying painting her. Looking forward to doing a lot of freehand and textures and the Sky Earth NMM. Probably the Sky Earth NMM will end up on my Patreon. There we go. There we are. So, Kitty! Alright, so we're getting in all that dark now. Now she's looking more like a rogue. I am going to also do that armband. The interior of it, anyway. I thought about using an accent, putting an accent color up there, and I may yet decide to. If I keep this purple here, and I need to repeat the purple elsewhere, maybe? I haven't decided yet, though. Yeah. Yeah, Chibi. It's gonna have... I'm gonna crap... She also has that cloak all over her back. So yeah, there's gonna be crazy freehand. My aim is to make her the best thing I've painted, so... she'll be getting a high-end competition paint job that probably will take over 60 hours total. But that's what I love to do. And I don't mind the time as long as it ends up looking awesome. So... got that armband in. I probably will line around it right now just to remind myself there's an edge there that I need to deal with. But yeah, I haven't tackled SEM NMM yet for any of my tutorials because I really feel like there are some models where it just doesn't fit, and there aren't many fantasy models where I feel it really fits. But that is one. That dragon shoulder pauldron, or sorry, lion shoulder pauldron.
just cries out for it. And it's so fancy, you can easily make the case that it's magical armor, which for me is what you need to do, like, what is essentially chrome on a fantasy piece. I don't think there's a lot of rationale for really, really, like, mirror-like Sky Earth otherwise on fantasy models. I personally feel that way. But with magical armor, that's where you can do it. And if anything is magical, that fancy pauldron is probably part of a magical armor set, I think. So then I feel okay about going Sky Earth on a fantasy piece. Plus, like, all those feathers around the lion's face, it's going to be so much fun. But yeah, okay, so we've got some more dark stuff in on here. Now we're starting to feel more roguey. Roguey, new adjective. Hey there, Wavy. But yeah, so yes, if you really makes you happy to, like, finish things, then yeah, consider, and you're a slow painter, consider doing what I do and painting in sections. Just give it a try. See if you like it. Doesn't hurt anything. David thinks it's really weird because if you're a more organic painter who likes to really set up, like, your light sourcing and highlights and shadows before you even do anything else, like, he feels it's kind of counterintuitive then. Like, the fact that I work out, like, my colors and everything before I even, like, think about light sourcing sometimes is, like, it makes him kind of, like, go, what? But I can still light source fairly convincingly, so it's just, like, it's a different approach. He will do, like, one pass and really hit the highlights. Like, even if everything else looks a total mess, the lighting will be apparent on his pieces when he starts. And with mine, that's not true. But my colors will be strong, whereas his takes some time to develop. My New Year was pretty good. We got a sad Wavy because I lost my dog right after Christmas. We lost Kiri. So other than that, like, New Year was a little rough for that reason, but otherwise, so far, the New Year is okay. The New Year is okay. It's coming along. How about that? Just block in a little bit more lining. Since I've got my walnut out, I may as well kind of pick things out and accentuate my details. Yeah, it's always rough when you lose a pet, but Kiri was really my girl. Been with me for a very, very long time. But we've decided that my own Twitch channel is now, instead of the Kiri Toys and Treats Fund, is now the New Puppy Fund. So there's always a silver lining. Although it'll be a while, I think. I don't know that I want to raise a puppy in this particular apartment. It's just too far from, like, grass. But, yeah, eventually. Alright, and I haven't done anything on these hands. I haven't even darkened them down, so I'll need to do that. But I do need to line around them at least. Very gently. And it doesn't matter if I blurf here because obviously I haven't done anything to the hands, so if I make a mistake I can paint over it. Yeah, thanks Noelle. Yeah, they really do. She was almost 13. She was actually only 2 weeks shy of her 13th birthday, so she's getting old. She's a big dog, so. But she had a very good life, so I feel like I was a good dog mom. That's the important part. It's like I've been in positions where I felt like I could have been a better pet parent when that time came, but this time I feel like I did my best. Alrighty. So at least we got some lining kind of stuff blocked out. Yeah, but then, you know, even if the floor is a wipe clean wavy, which actually we do, we've got that that faux wood flooring that's rubber. It's actually ideal for a puppy, but you don't want to train the puppy to go that way. You want to train the puppy to go outside, and so it's kind of defeatist if you don't have a place to easily take them. So yeah, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till we move to a different place and where we have some grass that is close by, so that we can properly train a dog. Got to set yourself up to succeed. And your dog up to succeed. I have raised and trained many dogs now, so there we are. Got some nice shadow there around that paw. That helps that stand out. Excellent. Well, we only have like about 10 more minutes. Let's see. What do I want to do? I'm going to get out... I will get out my brown. I'll get out my Ready Leather. It's around here somewhere. Is that you? No, that's not brown. We don't want not brown. There it is. So Ready Leather is a very reddish leather. And I want to use it in this case because that red is complementary to the green we've got going on. I'm going to do a 4-to-1. Yeah, maybe I'll do a 2-to-1 paint to water. And I'm mostly just going to be painting this over the higher parts, the parts that stick out, like on top of the scales here. I'm going to be leaving the walnut in the cracks. The colors are close enough, like Ruddy Leather is dark enough that will probably work just fine. I may regret this. I may want to get it a little thicker, but we'll see. I don't want to lose a lot of my dark feel here is the thing. I want to highlight this leather with a reddish color, but I don't want it to get too light. So I'll have to see if this will work. And one of the ways to do that will be to kind of minimize how much area the Ready Leather goes on. So I want it on enough of the model to carry that reddish hue there. But if I highlight it further, which I certainly will, I want to keep those highlights really small. And doing it that way should give me my reddish leather, but still keep everything really dark. It's all in how much surface area you take up with this stuff. So just putting it on the kind of more on the upper surface there. Let's get the belly scales. And here I'm just being really precise. I'm using my small brush note. Using my tiny brush because my tiny brush holds less paint, and so it allows me to be a little more precise and not worry about a lot of paint going where it shouldn't. It just enables you to hit these little areas more neatly because you're not worrying about that big backload of fluid in your brush, which can easily get out of control. So that is why I have switched to a smaller brush. And I didn't even think about it, I just did it. There we go. So you get that little reddish bit, right? And we don't want it too much, but I want it to kind of hint at that red. And then on this studded leather down here, I want to also bring that up. Pretty much everything except the belt and the straps. So there's some brown leather here. And then the brown leather over here where it's got studs also. And I'm being a little messy. I probably painted over a fold there that I need to go and shade again, but that's not too bad. I do want a lot of the highlight up on the upper part here. There's also a fold though, so I have to watch that. And then we've got a few studs, but far fewer studs back here on the back part. so we don't have as many studs to dodge. We can put a lot of leather down at the edge and leave more walnut up where the folds are going into underneath the armor plates here. But leaving a fair amount of area pretty dark. With some of these dark reddish leathers, you get kind of a mottled pattern because of the way the hide tans underneath it, and so that is not a bad thing. So if you feel like your reds and browns are reddish browns and dark browns are kind of giving it an irregular pattern, that's absolutely cool. You can go with it if you want to.
Hi, I'm David. I'm calling from Google for your phone interview. I'm doing well. How about you? And is this a good time for the interview?
There we go. Got a little bit. See that reddish hue? Just a little bit. Mostly I want a hint of that red, and then as I add other colors to highlight that up, it'll bring that color out a little bit more, but I don't want it to be overwhelming. Because again, I want it to stay dark. If I didn't want it to stay dark, I would have started with a lighter base coat, like I would have put the ruddy leather down as my base instead of starting with the walnut. But starting with the walnut makes everything stay a bit darker. You'd have to really, really highlight stuff up to get to the same point that if I had put like ruddy leather over something over here, it's going to come off much lighter than there. You can see that even with that one thin layer. That if I had just used the ruddy leather to start with, makes a big difference whether you're starting over a dark or a light base coat. You can see the huge difference. You see a lot more of the red when you're putting the ruddy leather over a light base coat than when you put it over something dark like walnut. So, but that goes with what I'm trying to do, right? Because I want this leather to stay really dark, even though I'm making it reddish. Alrighty. Get this more red over here. And again, we've got more studs here. I'll probably come in with some cloudy gray and kind of hit those just to make them stand out. The belt around the waist and the hip, the bag here, I'm still thinking I might go black with. And we've got some straps back here that I'm going to have to figure out. Lots of little straps. Okay. And then we just got to hit that one. And we'll have our... So you can see the brown. So we're bringing it up a little bit now. And since it's not quite so dark, she's lost a little bit of the roguishness, but not too bad. We could always come back and darken down the armor again if we wanted to, if we felt like it was too light, but we'll see. There we go. So you've got some nice browns, and that belt, that will still say black. And then we got gold and silver that we're going to bring in. And a little bit of blue for her eyes, actually. Where's my tropical blue? Maybe we'll put that on. Or cyan. Maybe I'll go with cyan. I have cyan right here. So let's block in her blue eyes. Cyan blue is a beautiful middle ground blue. It has a touch of green in it, as it should with the name cyan. It is possibly one of the most underrated blues and most versatile blues in our line. Could definitely use it as a primary blue. And I'm just going to thin it down a little bit and paint it over these eyes. And they'll definitely get lighter, but I want the color, so I'm using a pretty intense blue. a pretty dark blue. There we go. We have blue eyes on our kitty finally. Now, what I may decide to do then is if I decide that color is too different from other things on the model, I could choose to put some blue accents elsewhere on this figure. I could switch my, either switch this handle from purple to blue, or I could put like blue highlights on the wrap. That would be one way to do it. I could use this blue, and probably will use this blue, to tint my steel color when I get to the swords, right? So that introducing the color elsewhere doesn't always mean that you have to paint it on other parts of the model. Sometimes you can get away with just using it as a shadow or as integrating it into a neutral on the model. So if I decide I don't want to paint anything else on this blue, I can use that blue to mix into my gray and still get a hint of it. So now we have blocked in a lot more of our kitty today. We've made some good progress. We have base coated the leather, and we've highlighted the green more to bring it up. We've talked about keeping our leather a dark color by starting over that dark base coat, darkening down our rogue, and we've done some lining, and we filled in the eyes. So she looks a lot more like close to done right now. So now my challenge is to bring up the leather to the doneness level of the fur and the armor. Once everything starts pulling together, I can start thinking if I need more highlights somewhere, right? If I need more work somewhere. As everything gets close to done, I'll be able to see more if like, oh, I need another highlight level in the armor. Or, oh, the leather's gotten too light, or things like that, right? That's when you start fine-tuning toward the end. As everything starts coming together, you get a much better idea of where you need more contrast or maybe a little bit of a tighter paint job on a specific area, right? So yeah, so that's what we did today, guys. This has been Shadow Eyes Catfolk Rogue by Julie Guthrie, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Who do we have out there to read today, Justin, and what's coming up later today? Anything?
We have Luca coming on later this afternoon, per the usual.
Yay!
But in terms of our raid, let's see what's updated.
And meanwhile, you guys can look at the kitty. Kitty!
You know who we haven't raided in a hot minute?
Yeah.
Sky Daddy.
Sky Daddy, what's she painting today? Who is she?
It looks like, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah, something weird, huh? Sky Daddy is doing something weird. Sky Daddy is streaming after a bit of a break. Oh, okay. Cool. All right, I'm glad you like it, Twisted Oma. Fantastic. Well, you guys go say hi to Sky. She is awesome. She's a fantastic person. And body painters take a lot of kind of hate sometimes, so make sure to give her lots of love to make up for that, okay?
Oh, I think she's doing an Overwatch character.
Ooh, now I have to go look.
Yeah, she's doing Diva.
Ah, fantastic. Yay, Overwatch. Woo! All right, now I'm going to have to go watch. All right, have a great day, guys. Enjoy your Wednesdays, and I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow we are working on our stone to flesh statue, our living statue. So we'll work some more on that. So I hope you guys have fun, and I will see you tomorrow morning, all right? Bye!
Thank you guys very much.